All right. Well, I guess I won't argue it, but I get the recording going. All right. When you're ready.
Ready when you are.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Well, thank you everybody for coming. What a great turnout tonight. It's just all of the conditions kind of coming together to make it a great night to hang out and catch the presentation tonight. Tonight it's bringing practical cloud AI to content management, and this is a part one by our very own Dustin Willard, and very glad to have you, and I'll let you take over from there.
All right, perfect. Thanks. Usually say more than
that. But normally he's in person.
I'll catch up on the other side of the conversation.
I'll start sharing my screen. Give me one sec. All right, cool. Great to have you guys. This is going to be titled Microsoft SharePoint Premium in the Real World, bringing practical cloud AI to content management series. So basically, myself, 3 other people on my team wrote a book recently on SharePoint Premium. Comes out on April 30th. Order available right now. Looking pretty good. The director of product marketing for all of M365 wrote on the book for Microsoft, and the whole product teams for SharePoint Premium actually helped us out through the chapters and through all the materials. So it's kind of in tandem with Microsoft. I'm Dustin Willard. I'm a Microsoft MVP and M365 apps and services. I've been doing SharePoint teams full gamut since SharePoint 2003, pretty religiously. I lead a team at Sloan, doing my work stuff and really focused primarily on SharePoint Premium these days, helping grow that practice area out. And we also have Jacob Sanford. Jacob, do you want to say a few words?
Yeah, sure. I have also been working on SharePoint since 2003. Been working in technology since, I don't know, 1998, something like that. Dustin and I have become quick friends, best friends since working at Slalom together. Syntex or SharePoint Premium has been our passion since it's come out. And this is something that's is a breakthrough in SharePoint technologies. It's something that SharePoint promised years and years ago and has never really delivered. And this is something that we're really excited about. And yeah, this is a book that Dustin and I wrote together. This is my 5th book, and it's a book I've been the most excited about, I think, in all the ones that I've written. So I love this technology. I love working with Dustin, and I love working at Slalom. And so I'm excited to be here tonight. The second time I presented at this group. I think it's a great group, and I'm glad to be here.
Thanks, Jacob. And just to Jacob's horn just a little bit. He wrote all the books that I actually learned SharePoint from. And now he's on my team at Slalom, and we ended up working together. And so it was a match made in heaven when we first started working together. It's like, I got to hang out with this guy. He taught me what I kind of know in my job, and now we've written a book together. So kudos to him. So wanted to make a new slide today, but I didn't have enough time. So I'm going to improvise a little bit here. So I want to talk. So part of what we're going to do here is we're going to talk about the different features. This is going to be hopefully a multi-part series. where we ultimately will cover all the products within the SharePoint Premium umbrella, because there's a lot of features that are existing currently and that are coming to that platform. So,
We're
Which I
trying to
think we can
decide if
swap
we
the
could
screens.
switch the screens.
I don't know how.
We don't know.
We don't either.
How's our consensus? I was just trying to ask, just because that way you're just standing in front of yourself instead of.
You know what?
in front of Your content.
We-
podium
If we
moves.
just slide your podium over a little bit,
It's on wheels, so yeah, just drag it over.
there we go.
That was good problem solving.
Yeah,
Mom.
troubleshooting.
There we
101.
go. We got it now.
Thank you.
Maybe. I don't know if the cameras.
They followed you, they got you.
All right. Good. All right, cool. So so SharePoint Premium is going to be a series of features that are ultimately going to lead to building the first best-in-class Microsoft content management solution. SharePoint's always been good. Some people hate it. Some people love it. I've just loved it from the day I first found it. And Jeff Kiefer, the actual owner, they call him the godfather of SharePoint. He promised all these things, all these rich content management tools. They didn't really ever come to fruition. We could build a crazy information architecture, design the solution, design an instrument, push it out there. It always failed because people, I always say people, my honest opinion is people are lazy, but I've been told to say people get busy. So I'll say people get busy. And they don't end up inputting the metadata and actually filling out the information that's going to make this a true content management solution where you're actually going to be able to search, find things, and then even apply security to it and so on. You really need that core metadata and that information to create a CMS. Otherwise, you end up with a system like Box, which a lot of our clients and you got your guys' clients and everyone, probably your employers use. And there's no ability for, actually being able to drill down, find that information quick and easy. They have a search experience, but it doesn't have like the contracting party's name or whatever piece of details you want exposed to the file. So you can't really find it. It's hard to find things. If you're talking about a different line of business, you might do a search, and it was really talking about this line of business. You were looking for that line of business. Search is terrible. Even in SharePoint today, it's terrible because, like I said, we build all these really intense information architectures, and then people don't fill in the information. And a lot of times there's not a strong enough leader that's going to push the company to say, hey, you guys have to do this. This is part of your job now. And they go the path of least resistance and revert back to Box. I've seen it time and time again, and anybody in this field will tell you that's what's happened on most of these. I built intranets for Subway restaurants, for all kinds of companies. I probably shouldn't name all of them, but for sure, Subway restaurants, I'm allowed to name. So anyway, but they ultimately have always failed. AI now and machine learning and generative AI is obviously in the forefront of everyone's mind. We all are thinking about it. Everyone wants it. They heard Copilot came out. How do we get on that bandwagon? No, it's expensive, but I have to have it. It's going to write my notes for me. It's going to send emails. It's great. Well, it's only great insofar as your information architecture. If you have a dumpster, you're going to get a dumpster out of Copilot. So how do we fix that? Ultimately, building that rich information architecture that I described earlier, but leveraging generative AI and the different tool sets to fill in the gaps where the people don't have to do so much and they can be kind of lazy, but still have some impact, right? So along with that, SharePoint Premium is a rich set of permissioning tools, which always had been the problem with SharePoint. Everyone calls SharePoint permission hell. It can be, and unless you have tools like SharePoint Advanced Management, which I'll cover today, you're going to have gaps. Somebody might have shared something because that nasty share button in SharePoint shared something in the HR site. Now it's in the semantic index. Copilot's giving it back to them. They should have never seen the file in the first place. That's scary. And it's going to happen across all enterprises once they start getting Copilot because they can't wait. They're not thinking ahead. So this tool really builds ethical walls between sites. So and I'll get to that. It's really cool. Any SharePoint admin was like, where has this been forever, and it's here. And so that's that. AI powered content services expects, based on like the ability to search and find content, organizations, just at the initial setup to collect or save between 42 and 127 million. There's content intelligence in the tool set, which is like we're going to cover here in a minute about the AI processing models along with content services that build the content types and build forms. There's content discovery, being able to find information, like I said, and so on. There's a lot more. We're going to cover all the different features. But the next time that I don't cover today, we're really going to cover what I covered at the inaugural session or opening of this in 365 user group, which was around the models. We're going to cover that again as a recap. And there's probably half of you that were here in the room for that, but probably forgot about it anyway. So we're going to hit that, and then we're going to hit SharePoint Advanced Management. All right, with that, Jacob is going to lead this portion of the conversation, and I'll take Sam. So, go.
All right, great. This is the part that I love. This is where SharePoint Premium, and you're going to have to forgive me, I'm going to probably call it Syntex a lot, and I told Dustin that earlier because this is what I learned it on, and so I'm going to keep referring to that probably. But this is my favorite part of SharePoint Premium. I lost the screen. Do you still see it?
No, I stopped sharing because you'll probably share from your screen when you do the demo. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, you needed that slide though. Sorry.
Yeah, I needed that slide.
I got excited. Sorry. I thought
Yeah.
But I could get one step ahead of myself.
Yeah. So anyway, this is my favorite part of SharePoint Premium. This is where the core of it started from, and to me, it's still the core of SharePoint Premium. This is where the model started. I think Dustin presented on this, and I presented with him at one point this part to this user group. But this is where the core of it started. The AI models that got me really excited about SharePoint Premium. This is what the document processing came through. There's two kinds of it that are really the delimiter for how this works. There's unstructured content processing, which is my favorite, and then there's structured content processing. Structured content processing is what I'll talk about first because that's the easiest to understand, and that's the easiest one to do. This is what you think of like invoices. This is one that's easiest to predict. There's going to say that the form is always the same. So you think of an invoice, you think there's always going to be an invoice number. There's going to be an invoice, a client name, a client address. There's going to be, an invoice amount. And these are always going to be in a predictable area. It's going to be saying, this is where this is always going to be, no matter who the client is. It's going to be in this format. It's going to be in a relatively same place every time. And so it's a pretty easy model to set up. And there's actually invoice model that you can just set up. You can say, here's a couple samples, and it just does it for you. And it's really easy. The unstructured content processing is harder to set up, but to me, it's more fun because you're going in there and you're using your developer brain, your coder brain to go in there and say, how do I tell this AI engine to find this stuff? You say, what I call bookends. You say, what comes right before this and what comes right after it, to say, where can you find this information in this document? It may not be in the same place. And it may not even have the same bookends, but here's a couple of things you can look in before. It may have one of these 3 things before it. It may have one of these 5 things after it, but look for these things that are around this. And if you find these things, that's what I'm looking for, And so it's a trial and error. You go and run it and see if it comes back. And if you start looking at what's called a confidence score, when you start running it in there and you get a high score, then you go, okay, I've got it. And then you see after a while the confidence score starts dropping. You go, well, I might need to tweak this. You go back in it and start tweaking it and start trying to work on it, constantly evaluating it and tweaking it so you get the right numbers. And it's really, to me, it's more fun because it's a project. It's a continuing project, and that's why I like it more. It's more of an adventure, and it's more like a coding project than the structured content processing. And I'm not saying that structured content project doesn't have value. I think they're both equally valuable, and I think they're both equally useful in the workplace. I just personally like unstructured content processing more because I think it's more of a challenge and it's more interesting to do and to work on. But like I said, both of them have their place, both of them have their value, and both of them are really useful in the workplace. I just personally like unstructured content processing. So with that, we can go to the demo now. And I will share out my screen if I can.
Anybody have any questions so far on AI content model before we even get into the demo?
Is this the same AI content models that you guys presented when you did Syntex?
Yes.
So this is just
so-
a new rebranding?
So yes, SharePoint, SharePoint Syntex changed its name to Microsoft SharePoint Premium because of the market conditions. You would type in Syntex into Google or into Bing, and it would say, "Did you mean syntax?" And Microsoft was like, "This isn't catching traction because of that," so they changed the name. But then they also refactored how they're positioning this.
Okay.
So Syntex was really just the AI models that we were talking about with a few extra bells and whistles. Now, basically, any value add you see coming into SharePoint will fall under the SharePoint Premium umbrella of products, and they are pay per use products. Some are monthly fees. They are working on a seat license that you can buy all of it and do unlimited. So there is an additional bonus.
And this is not the Microsoft Syntex SharePoint Advanced Management overview, is it?
So it is Microsoft SharePoint Premium Advanced Management is one of them. And then the other one, we're talking about SharePoint Premium AI models,
Okay.
which is what
I'm just trying to sort out the 85 rebranding.
Right.
Recently.
they do every year. If you stick around Microsoft for any length of time, you will learn that. I mean, just the purview stuff the other year, it was like, why did you just change the name from this to that? Why did you just change Azure Active Directory to intro that? Everyone knew, and it's been around for years. It makes no sense, but they do it to keep it fresh. So.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we're talking about the same thing, similar to what we talked about previously.
Sorry, Jacob. I just want to make sure we answer that.
No, you're good.
Right.
All right, we're good to move on?
One more question. Sorry.
Okay.
More of a general.
Yeah.
Model. So, for the unstructured data, when you say that you can kind of code in rules for like what happens 2 steps before, like 2 steps after, you can this be like processes or like events?
Yeah. So think about this. You have a form, right, that always looks the same or similar. Might have this word in front of that word. So contracting party might be in there. And then it's going to look for what's in between there and the period that would come after the contracting party name, right? It would grab that information, tag it to the content, and now it's available. So that's an unstructured. It also could look for things like social security numbers and credit card information based on patterns and arguments that you can complete that would find those things within the document, no matter where they are, but you could say they're going to be probably at the beginning or the middle or the end, and it makes it quicker and faster. It covers all of those type of things.
Yeah, you can use like regex to expand what Dustin is saying. So you can look for regex patterns.
That's it, just right there.
Darren, did you shut the internet off again?
He's not on my internet.
I am on your
Right now?
stayed on your.
That's just him.
It's Florida.
Yeah.
And not like
Well, it's Florida.
it's a swamp.
It happens in Florida.
Jacob, can you hear us?
I can hear you, but my whole computer just the wonders of live presentation. Hey, Dustin, I need a new computer.
All right. Yeah, we should get.
I might
you
not
a
be able to do my
computer.
demo. Like all my screens just went out. I have.
Just reboot.
Yeah, well,
Appreciate you bringing my internet.
We'll see you back in 5 minutes.
It's not all that easy, actually. So, Jacob?
Turning it off and on again.
oh, we can see your screen now.
Yeah, we can see.
But he went away.
Just type the password slow so we can see.
Yeah, he's locked up.
Oh, he's not.
so
Your screen
fun.
now. We see your screen.
What can you see? Let me.
Envision credit union.
That's not the screen I want you to
Okay.
see. I
Yes.
see you, kind of.
Hey,
Um,
all your browsers are good. There we go.
Yeah, this is the one I wanted you to see, if it'll work. I might still be able to do it. There we go. Well, it's not, it's my laptop screen, not the screen I wanted to be on. Can you still see it?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay,
You don't see your beautiful face anymore. But that's okay.
well, that's okay. All right, so was that all the questions? We can move on?
Yep.
I can try and do the demo on this screen, so sorry about that. All right, so, and we can kind of show you what you're talking about with the models and kind of show you a little bit at a high level what you're talking about, like how to tweak them. But I want to at least show you at a high level what this does, so you can at least get an idea of what this looks like. So this is the structured models. Well, let me get to the structured model. This is invoices. So I'm just going to drop these files in here. And so these are
Maybe
just,
open one. Maybe open one up too. Jacob.
yeah, that's what I was gonna do after I dropped them in here. So this is what one looks like. So just real quick, this is what it looks like. Just a normal, what you would think it would look like. Assuming it'll work. So just what you would think. So you can see this isn't a great scan. It's got, noise in here. It's whatever, but this is what what you expect on an invoice. It's going to have like the salesperson, the PO number, the terms. It's going to have the invoice number up here, the date, the ship to date or the ship to address, the subtotal, sales tax, total due. And we didn't get all this information. We just set some of these fields. So back on the screen over here.
But what Jacob did was basically just upload a bunch of documents. He's not having to think about the metadata that would need to be tagged. These could be required columns. Normally someone would have had to fill this information out. It would have took them maybe a minute to 3 minutes each document to upload and fill out that information, which is why I was saying before, these projects typically fail because people aren't going to enter that information. They would rather use a point solution or go back to their file share and just drop the files in. This now is allowing AI to look at the document. You just see it pop up. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I'm stealing your thunder now.
No, you're good. And you can see just while we're sitting here, some of this information is already popping in. It's just going here and reading it. It's while I'm talking, you can see information just popping in here. You can see one of the things you can see is the content type is changing to Contoso invoice, and that's important because that's showing that the SharePoint Premium has changed it from a document to invoice, because that's the name of this model. So that recognizes this is no longer a document, it's an invoice. And it's got the customer address. What is it? The customer address, and this is the customer address recipient, customer name, invoice date. I mean, it's not getting all the fields yet, but it's pulling in here. And one of the things that you can see when you get over here is the confidence score that I was talking about. And some of this looks kind of low, like especially like this 41.133 and the 63. But one of the things that I like to look at is this is from Microsoft, the confidence score and what it means. So anything above 90% is near exact match of a user query. And anything over 70% is high confidence. So even if some of these scores look pretty low, 72%, 75%, according to Microsoft, anything over 70% is high confidence, and 50 to 70% is medium confidence. So while these scores aren't great, they're not considered out of the range of, okay, medium to high confidence.
Honestly, they're better than your employees would have entered in the information.
Right. I mean, I'll be worried about a
wait a
41. I'd be worried about this one, but the other ones I wouldn't be too concerned about, honestly. And with the 41.13, I would investigate why it was so low, but you can see it has some weird things coming in, like the purchase order is 0.444. That's weird. And it didn't have a remittance address when all the other ones did, and some other things like that. Maybe I'd go look at why that happened, but mostly the ones came through, they're okay. And so that came through pretty well. You can see all 10, had information come through. And if you want to see the model, this is what, other stuff's coming up. This is what the model looks like. These are what are called extractors. So you can see what the fields look like. and I'm gonna look at the other one more, but this is what a model looks like. It has, these are what all the fields came through. And when you go into this, and I'll show it more on the unstructured because it's more interesting. This is where you set the rules on how do we find these fields and how do you set them. So let me do that on this one. And it'll be more interesting on this one. So let me pull these up. These are all RFPs. This is a, oops.
Oh, you're holding control, right?
Of course, nothing's working. The wonders of live presentations. Why is it not working?
So you have to create the, Dustin, you have to create the content type as well.
No, so when you create the model, it creates a content type for you. So it is better if you, I know you know SharePoint pretty well. It's better to build them first in the site, so then you can have your layering of your content types and they can
Base
be.
class and then all the.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of building them all at like the root of the site, you probably want to have in different.
Well, the relationship between the columns and the model, like you define it one or the other.
You define the column inside of the model, and you say this is going to be the name. If there's already a column that exists out there, you can choose that.
So like,
Yeah, so it's the same name, same field. So if you're wiring up search, it's one and the same, and we'll filter down.
And these models, there's some out of the box models that
There are.
you can customize.
They have like 5 now, and I know contracts is one, invoices one, statements of work, I think is now one, and a few other small ones. And yeah, those that Microsoft has bought millions of invoices, millions of contracts from hundreds and hundreds of companies, and basically use generative AI to figure out, yeah, this is probably that, this type of contract, this is probably that. So, and they
That's
have.
why they want a CPR form. They don't have to buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our C4R submission,
Yeah.
they're ingesting our
They are probably.
contracts.
You know, they probably are at this point, yep. Which makes sense actually. Why couldn't they? You sign rights away.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, so yeah, that is that. So Jacob, sorry for keep interrupting you.
No, you're good. It made my screens come back up and my pretty face is back on. So,
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just the regular face.
oh, sorry. I forgot to put on my pretty face. All right, so I'm gonna do the RFPs now. So I'm just gonna drag these 10 files I have over here. And like I said, I'll open up one while it's showing you just the same thing. And these are all a little bit different. So this is what RFP looks like. They're just, company overview, company name, contact, total bid amount, introduction. It's all just text. And, the next one, it looks different probably. It's different format, different layout. The same kind of information, total bid amount, contact, introduction, why this company, and it's got, all different verbiage. But when we get into here, we want to have the bid, the company. We didn't do as many fields on here. We just did 3, I think, or 4 fields in here. And take a minute to get some stuff going in here. But while it's building, you can see this is a more interesting model. So because in here, this is what kind of we're talking about here. So when you go in here, you can see, like we labeled it for, this one had no label. This one, we highlighted that what we're looking for is this field right here. On this field, we highlighted this is the field we wanted here, and this is the amount we wanted here. And you highlight each field that you want. And then you go into the train and you
So
say
those are basically just files that you upload that you have to put some positive files that are going to actually have the information. You have to put some that are going to be wrong.
For learning.
right.
Exactly. For the machine. They're actually calling this machine teaching. So
Right.
it feels the same thing. And then they also take the file, and you noticed on the file Jacob first showed it had images and all kinds of rich, text and formatting and so on. It takes it and just rips it all out, puts it plain text. It takes all the pictures out, all the images. So that helps it ensure it's always going to still be in that same place of the document every time.
What about OCR within the image itself? So if you get a,
So OCR is they have a different product that we're going to cover the next time.
Part two?
Yeah, part two. That takes any image, OCRs the image, and actually can extract all the text from it, tag it to the content. So now that's searchable and findable. You set up rules and Power Automate or whatever to flag information and so on. It's pretty powerful stuff.
what about document assembly versus document extraction? Is that part two?
Or content assembly, is that what you mean? Yeah, same thing. We usually cover it in this. We did cover it last time. We did not intend to cover it, but if we have enough time, I can definitely cover it today. If not, we'll cover it next time. Yeah. That would have normally been part of this.
Okay.
There's so many new features in
Yeah,
SharePoint
right on.
Premium. And if we try to cover them all, we could probably be here for 2 weeks at a time to cover everything. So we had to pick and choose. So, but yeah, let's do that. All right, Jacob, sorry.
So, yeah, you're fine. So just real quick, this is showing like the before label. So what they're looking for before the content, and this is a pretty rudimentary one, but it's just showing that before the content, it wants to look for a colon and a $sign. And then the after label is looking for any of these things: introduction, Mitoso contact, start date, why pros where, preferred supplier, company. It could be any of these phrases. So it's literally looking for one thing before it, a colon and a $sign, and after the label is looking for any of these things can be after it. And so those, and then you look for that. It's mismatching all these for some reason, but on this one, it's get a match, and you'll see that because those are no labels. But what it should find is, and here, I don't know why it's saying it, no mismatch. You can see that this one is green, which means it was predicted, and blue means it's labeled. So when you see this, it's got the whole thing is green with the blue at the top, means it was predicted based on what we picked here, and it has the blue, which means that's what we selected in the labeling stage over here. And so you just trained files. These are the files we picked to be in our train the model. And so we pick a handful of them, 5 to 7 files to train it with. And some of those are that we pick them back in the labeling phase. And then we use these explanations here to build our phase, or to build our logic. And then the last stage is a test phase. And it goes through here and predicts them. And you go through and say, did it get it right? And you can see that this picked 65,000. You go, yep, that's right. Go through here, picked $140,000. Yep, good job. This one's 98,557. Yep, that looks right. And this one's 40. I mean, that one's not right, but should have been this whole thing. But and you look also at the accuracy up here at 90%. You're going, well, that's pretty good. But then but for me, because this is
How do
just
you
me.
tell that it's not right?
How do you?
Right, I would say
No, how do
that's
you
not
tell?
right. Why is that not right? So I'd go back over here and go, I would go back and keep training it until I got it right. But for demo purposes, it's close enough.
But so like you are going to get false.
Yeah, so do you exclude those from the?
It's gonna try to pull that information in, and it's going to tag it to the content because that's just the way the mechanism works. So it would have showed without those zeros, and obviously it's wrong. But again, like I said, your people are gonna do this stuff way more often than that one file having an extra space and a number.
Except for when they start thinking AI is going to fix everything, and then
Correct.
they get more trust in that than they do the people.
Well, and that's the good part about generative AI. They're actually adding things called like autofill columns that can leverage generative AI. You could write a prompt, which that's one thing we will talk about as part of this too. It's another feature of SharePoint Premium. You could write a prompt into a SharePoint column and say, give me a description of the file. And every time a new file is dropped in, generative AI is going to go prompt it. It's going to read that file and put a description in a piece of metadata. Or if you wanted to look for, the contracting party or the amount, you can have it go and it's going to probably find the information. So,
Well, and the other thing too is that I've often said that a lot of times the Syntex or SharePoint Premium
I agree.
We just lost you.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's just like any AI model, you're gonna tell it where it's right, where it's wrong, it's gonna learn from that. I was just wondering if there was a visual prompt where you can say, no, knock this one out, and then retrain it for that case.
Jacob,
I'm
I
back.
guess we lost.
Can you hear
You're
me?
back, yeah. Yeah, we hear it.
Microsoft Word should have fixed that number.
All right. Anyway, well, I was gonna say, do you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay. Well, I was gonna say is that I often say that SharePoint Premium is a first step of a multi-step process a lot of times. And so, Dustin was talking about generative AI being the step, but sometimes the step is you might have Power Automate go in there. So like I've used it before to pull out the the entire steps of a like the keyword or the like the test steps or whatever out of a contract and or the KIs of a contract, and then Power Automate can take that field and break it down into like what and take it and say like each number, it looks for each item and breaks that down into multi-steps in a different list or something. So it can take that every time a new item is added, because Power Automate has a step in it that's called when Syntex finishes, and so it looks for that when a new item is added. When Syntex finishes, it runs and then it does something. So you can say when Syntex finishes processing on a list item, go and do something, and you can say look at list item, look at this column, and if it has values, then break these values into multiple steps, multiple items, and create a new list item or multiple items in this other list based on this large list item. This multiple items that are stored in this one list item into multiple list items in another list. So I mean, you can do a lot of stuff with this. I mean, it can be the first step in a multi-step process, and I've used it that way, and it's a really cool way for like a springboard into different steps of different processes. So one thing I want to show you here is that, one of the reasons I like this is because it'll have you a lot more control over your stuff. And so you can see on here, the confidence scores is near 100% on these items, and it's 99 point something on every one of these. And that's because, Dustin and I playing around with these, we kept tweaking it until we kept getting higher and higher scores with these. And so when you look at the fields we have, we kept playing with it until we got what we wanted. I mean, and so we got really high scores on this, and this is our playground we used a lot.
So if the confidence score is low,
Yeah.
you can kick that through a workflow and have manual limit it.
You could. Yeah.
You could.
Definitely.
You could have something that's send an email to the whoever the SharePoint Premium administrator is and say, you have a confidence score of 40%. You need to look at your model, or something.
Yeah, because they uploaded a new document.
Exactly.
And it freaked
Right.
out.
And
Right.
something looks fishy, something looks weird. You need to go check this out, flag it
What
or
was the
something.
confidence score in that 4,500 though?
Right. Set some kind of threshold and say, and have some kind of action on that to have something happen.
We done that earlier.
And that's always,
Yeah.
as soon as you apply a model to this library, confidence score gets added to that library or list, or I guess it's always a library, but, and so that's going to be a default field. And that's one of the things about SharePoint Premium is that.
Give me a
Is
second,
that-
Jacob. So, one second, Jacob.
Yeah.
So that was, somebody asked a question and we're
Sorry.
trying to talk around you. Basically that 45 was when we were training a model. You're supposed to upload stuff that's a little bit off and a little bit different to actually push the model, figure out if there is going to be potential for inaccuracy.
Yeah.
And there is in that case, right? So what we can do is put additional terms like on the after label to start making it better, tweaking it and improving the ability for it to always get there. But when you have a low score like that, there's probably just one or two things you'd have to do to the model to make it work.
Yeah, but was the 4,500 a low score?
That was a medium score, pretty low.
Okay.
Yeah.
But did you upload that document in the library that Jacob was showing?
Oh,
Did that document?
I don't think that document. was in
Right,
it.
so you're training the model using
To
that
make it
document,
hard.
but it didn't necessarily make it to the library.
Correct. Yeah, you can train it in that library, in that area, and then you deploy the models to any of your document libraries across your tenant
Right.
in any site collection, or team site or whatever. And you can apply that model to 15 different sites, 100 different document libraries, whatever you want to do. But and that content lives in the content center. It never leaves there. It's just a training area. Then you push the model out and you start uploading the documents. And that's why that document isn't in our document library. Does that make sense?
It does. I'm just trying to like, without visually looking, like if you're doing thousands of documents at a time, like you're not gonna be able to
Well,
go through them. Like,
how often are you going through 1,000 documents at a time, though? And you're a regular workflow. I guess if you're doing a migration, sure. And you're gonna have some Q&A go on. And like we were saying to Jeff's point, like you could have a confidence score and say anything below 50% automatically trigger and send an email to so-and-so for manual review. And you could start to improve that. And then once you start seeing that stuff, the admin can go in and tweak the model.
well, that's why I was specifically wondering about like that 4,500, right? Because the 4,500, it's actually an accurate number, right?
Right.
It just missed the numbers that were after it. But then the qualifier was still there because it had
Correct.
the colon $sign set of numbers.
Yep.
And then underneath it had introduction.
Right.
So it's 100% right.
Yep.
It just didn't grab the whole, like from a logic perspective, it's
Correct.
right.
Right.
So I would think that it would come back with a high
score.
score, but it's still wrong.
Because it noticed that there was something in between that introduction
Yeah.
and where it thought the number ended. Right, so it had that white space in between
Right.
that showed the extra comma 000, and then it said the word introduction. So that brought its score down. Because it did not match. It should have been a straight number, then the word introduction after. And because of that, the pattern was off, and that's down.
Can you train a model to look for duplicate files?
Trying to model to look for duplicate
How
files.
would there be duplicate files
Oh, you'd be surprised.
in a library?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The same file name?
Different file names, same
So that
file.
is when I would use the new OCR feature that's coming out and add that to a field and say it has to be unique. And then if you start running it through, you're gonna find your duplicate files because it's gonna have the same wordage in that field.
Yeah, we just have a particular client who they migrated,
Yep.
from on-prem, but then didn't get rid of the old, and then they just create
Sure.
duplicates and they change one thing in the title and it's spread across their environment.
Right.
We had a
You could probably
migration.
do something like we were
Go back
talking about
to-
earlier, like with the Power Automate, you could say, once it got done with the Syntex model, it could look through and whatever the duplicate would look for, like if you had an invoice ID, and that's the way you notice that it's a duplicate file, you would say, once it's done processing, search the library for this duplicate ID, and if it exists, flag it, something like that. I mean, I don't know that the Syntex model would catch it, but I think that you could do some kind of other second step that would catch it. Does that
Actually,
make
Jacob,
sense?
with that, let's move to the invoices library and show the search experience that we built. So not that one, the invoices next door.
This one.
So this one was already pre-built, has all the same files pretty much in it. It's been searched, indexed, and crawled. So now we can actually leverage that information and build a search style experience. We're using the PMP web parts, which is a free module from the PMP team. It's closely affiliated with Microsoft. Microsoft doesn't support it themselves though. And so it's an at your risk type of build. I am working with the product team at Microsoft right now to increase this feature called content query, which is right now part of SharePoint Premium, but it's very infantile compared to.
Do you think they'll pull that in
They are.
there?
They
should.
Yeah, that's what that's the theory. We'll put it that way. That's what we're talking about. So we just pulled up a search and we just searched for everything. I just had put an asterisk in and it went. If you look on the left, you can quickly, because the information, and we can build these search pages to look any way you want, make them a lot prettier. For this demo, I didn't think it was worth building a whole design and doing that. We can show all the metadata and so on. But then you can quickly, if you hit like Acme, it just brought it down to 3 files instantly. We know that those are for Acme. if we knew like the invoice total, or invoice date, or invoice ID, they would show up there, right? And if you saw you had 5 files with the same invoice ID, probably have a duplicate, right? And that would be another way you could action on duplicates. It's because you're going to see them right away in search.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, this thing really can be tailored however you want. You have document libraries across, or have it search your whole intranet and be able to filter down for departments based on like the department name of the site. It could be tagged to the content, so now you can get to only those files really quick, and then see all their content types, the type of content they manage, and you're able to get to your information in seconds instead of having to search through your through all of these SharePoint document libraries, folders, and embedded folders, and you try to search, it doesn't find your file. It's very frustrating because you've tagged all this content up front. This tool would be able to get you to that file in a matter of seconds versus maybe hours.
It's still gonna follow SharePoint permissions, so if you don't have access, you don't have access.
Yeah, if you don't have access, you don't have access. And one thing also the model can do is apply sensitivity labels and retention labels to the content based on metadata. So you can have that predefined also. You could also, so there are some
Will that
limitations.
show up in Compliance Center as
It
well?
will. Yep, you'd actually build those in compliance
Okay.
at first,
Find it.
and then they're available as options inside the model for training. Yeah, Jacob's showing sensitivity label and retention. Just set any of your existing ones. So when it's a SAL or something, for example, you could have a predefined security group. They would only be the people who ever be able to have access to this. People might have access to the site. They might be able to get there, but they're not part of that security group. They're not getting to the file. So that's pretty cool and powerful. With that, Jacob, do you want to share anything else, or should we move? to
No, I'm
Sam?
good. No, I'm good. We can move it to you.
All right. And if you have to go, man, it's all good.
Yep, I'm gonna drop. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
so much for this. Yep.
Thanks, Jacob. Thank you.
Justin, are you gonna cover pricing?
I didn't plan to. Pricing is.
from last time? It was like
So-
20 minutes of the conversation.
I know. And it's still that hard of a conversation, to be honest.
Still
Microsoft,
10 cents a page.
it's not 10 cents. They dropped it to 0.0005 cents a page.
Hey, that's better.
Yeah.
I still
And
don't understand how they figure out what pages.
how they figure out the pages, they're having a counter go through as the model processes. It's physically counting.
Counting pages. And it's
Now,
Is it a European legal page?
Right, that's a good question too.
I'm still applying.
Yeah, just put one big. So, but they are coming out with a per seat license again, that will come. And it's going to be less than the old one and come with all the new bits of SharePoint Premium too, like e-signature, which is going to be a way costlier, cost savings compared to DocuSign and all the other signature providers. Keeps it all inside of your environment, so you can build Power Automate flows and have it automate your business process end to end with signature. Whereas the DocuSign to SharePoint integration is challenging for almost all customers. This is going to work natively right out of the box, so I think it'll end up driving a lot of work that way. There's so many tools in SharePoint Premium. I'm hoping we'll hit all of them at some point, but I think we have to go through each one to build the story.
Wonder if they'll come out with an E7 something.
So, no, they say they're not going to.
They said they were never gonna go past Windows 10.
Well, and they also said, right, and then they also said Copilot was gonna be 300 users, or you couldn't get it, at least 300 users, so now they've already changed it to where anyone can get it, so. But I think the problem is they're figuring that this is gonna require a lot more compute, in the back end, and so they are trying to figure out what that looks like. And somebody said this to me yesterday, and I was like, this is a very good point. If they figured it out for Copilot, it's at $30 per user a month, they can figure it out for this, right? Like, that's a lot more of a challenging thought process to figure out what the price should be. And I still fear, like, to the question of pricing, that's why I don't really love talking about it, is I think that pay as you go is a challenge. And organizations live and breathe by their budgets. And if they are going to 1 month get a $10,000 bill and the next month get $1 million bill because somebody went in and processed all this stuff, that's very scary to organizations. and it could put someone's head on the chopping block. So I am working with the product team and product marketing team again to really resolve that piece, and make it where it's more entertainable for.
On the proceed, you know, it's just the people training and running models, or would it be across the org?
If you want to process a model, you would need a license.
But just the people processing? Okay. That's doable.
You're right.
Not the consumers of the.
No, that's all. For, and it's like for the signatures that that use it, you pay for one. So, yeah.
I wonder how they control that though.
So,
Well, DocuSign does pay for envelope. It's the same.
No, I'm saying you got access to a document library.
there,
You have permissions to upload it. But your account doesn't have the ability to process it. So,
it would just not process. It would just sit there and say,
but will it?
it would, no, it won't. It will say document as the content type and it won't process. And
So that would be an issue because people would upload documents and those would not get processed.
Right.
And then someone would have to download them to re-upload those that had a license to process them.
right.
For
And there are,
for approval process in front of a flow,
Something.
put it in a
You gotta-
pickup directory where you can approve it.
Right, exactly. You
Yeah,
have to do something like
Yeah,
that.
you can
Because
figure it out.
otherwise,
Yeah.
Then you just have one.
Then you just have one, yeah.
right?
but that's what they're trying.
Boom, let's buy it.
That's why they're
That's what they're
trying
trying
to
to avoid.
prevent.
Yeah.
And they try to get, it's just the same thing as what Copilot was. When they try to sell licenses, they try to get for at least 300. For any set money that they're gonna contribute. That's kind of their hitch, to get people to buy 300 licenses. But yeah, you technically could. And Microsoft would kill us for doing that. And, you'd be in a huge licensing violation, but you could have one account that it works as a service principal and, is attached to Power.
I wasn't thinking that service principal, I was thinking we'll have a flow that has approval, so okay, like Val's the one who can submit stuff, so Val has to review and say, okay, I want to upload this. And she approves it and it goes in and then it.
On her account.
On her account.
Yeah.
So you put a human gate in front of her.
Yeah.
I mean-
What the.
When you're talking to
Library, what's
the powers that be, I mean, if they made this a reasonably priced proceed model
Everyone would want it.
and you spun it on the data governance side of this is the better way to do auto labeling.
Yep.
Across, I knew this when it came out of Syntex, like.
Right.
And if you can push it on the data governance side.
Yep.
And made it not a $30 a month SKU.
No, exactly.
You could sell this all day long.
That's what I've been saying to them. And I'm at the MVP summit next week with all of them as well. And so we actually are going to get into this nooks and crannies of pricing and talk about these things deeper. So that feedback is great to be able to have. Because really, I agree with you. That's what I told them just the other day. This is like, again, what Jeff Keeper promised when he first announced SharePoint. All the features that they're adding are really going to make it the best in class kind of management system there is. Microsoft has the budget and money to do all kinds of really cool stuff. The stuff in their pipeline is like super exciting. I wish I could share some of it because it's really, really exciting stuff that they're including. So that's, I mean, it's amazing. Everyone would have it. It kind of we're trying to figure out, does this make it sound like SharePoint's an inferior product? Why do you need all these extra features? Because SharePoint is awesome already, right? And so they're having that dilemma too. So we're trying to figure it out. The best we
It
can.
is awesome if you have users who are willing to
Fill out the
do
information.
the work.
Right.
Even then, it's still awesome.
I have a question online.
Yeah. Who has a question?
Denise came up mute anyways.
Yeah, no, thanks. I unmuted because Val said data governance and that's my wheelhouse
And
and
it got her ears going.
I
woke her up.
wanted I wanted to comment, just I love that you guys are talking about the pricing and the value add and the end user because like interviewing across business users about data governance and the focus on being able to manage your data and find your data, especially unstructured data. Like SharePoint needs that boost of making this easier for end users in order for companies to actually store their documents there. Because end users are saving their documents elsewhere because it's too difficult to do all of the manual metadata entry.
No, I totally agree. That's where those models do come in. It expedites the ability to get that information in there, right? It's not, again, to our point before, it's not always going to be 100% correct. The people would never have got it 100% correct. They probably would have got it, 60% correct at the best. Having the AI do that up front is a huge time savings, and the ROI is truly there. Yeah.
I think my comment is more that, if they're going to price this version of SharePoint in a crazy way, then that's going to be really difficult for our clients because they're
It's
end
not
users.
really. So it's the same version of SharePoint. These are just disparate features that, when wired up, and they're pay-as-you-go features that you add. You don't have to get all of the features. You can get one feature. You get it. All the features you can apply. Get one license for one person in your organization. Five for 500 people, right? So that's the good part about it. But the unknowingness, I think, of the price and what you're going to end up paying for every month is the fear, and that's what they're working on.
Well, it's hard to get prepared to invest in your organization to look into it even deeper until you know that there's a reward at the end, right?
Correct. Yep, exactly. No, I hear that loud and clear. And we're talking about working on a ROI calculator and a Power BI dashboard where you can come in and use their free trials, actually start ingesting the data, doing what you're going to do on a month-to-month basis so that you can calculate what your regular cost is going to be over a 3-month period. And you didn't have to pay for it. And it's just an onboarding time. We're talking about all of those things to start gaining traction here, which people may be interested in doing. So with that, let's move on to SharePoint Advanced Management real quick. And I don't know how long we're supposed to be here, but I don't want to keep you guys all night.
I'll stay because I want to learn about this.
All right, cool. Is Dan leaving?
I'm bored on my mind.
Yeah, I bet you are. Thanks. So SharePoint Advanced Management is a tool set that really gives back the power to the organization of SharePoint management. SharePoint permission management. Permissions has always been every SharePoint admin's downfall, and it's so hard, especially with this pesky share button that they put on every page now that breaks permission structures and adds people to sites that you didn't want them to have, or adds them manually to the document with unique permissions, right? It's very you might have built your information architecture great, but there's so many ways to break it natively within SharePoint. Because the whole idea of SharePoint is to be able to share, right? You're supposed to be able to send things to different people in the organization. And so now I'm in HR and I send somebody something in their HR file and then they share it to somebody else. Now they have access to it, right? When I go to Copilot or go to any of the generative AI, it's going to answer within context to that file, right? And they should have never had access to an HR file, right? Happens all the time. And with Copilot, it's going to become very apparent what people have access to that they shouldn't. And that's a huge risk, right? People are so excited to go with Copilot, but they're not ready with their permission structures, and they're going to make a big mistake. I'm calling SharePoint Advanced Management TSA pre-check for your Copilot, which I think is funny, which ensures that your SharePoint sites and your OneDrives are secure. The people have access to the content they should have access to, and that's it. Basically, the way they do that is building walls and setting up this through restrictive access control. You can set up policies that basically say, hey, if I'm in this security group, I should have access to the HR site. That could be a dynamically managed security group that says, hey, if your department title says HR, you can build an O365 dynamic group. You can apply it to this site. Every time a new person comes with that HR title, they're going to get access to the site. Anyone without HR and their title, they're not getting it, period. You can add them all that. You can be an owner of the site. You can give your admin the main admin, for HR. Full owner permissions, even full access, or site collection admin, they can add anybody outside of that group. They're not getting in though. They're not gonna be able to get in, and your organization is gonna be able to be like, yeah, I know for sure HR is secure. Only the people in this group can get in. Same with employees, if there's, different organizational units that they should be able to share a file with, right? But they shouldn't be able to share with other people, because that's an organizational policy or there's some regulation behind it. They can, though, the security group apply that to the people's OneDrive. And now if they tried to share files outside of those groups or whatever, those people would not have access, not be able to get the files. Really what this is, but this tool is mostly what I consider information barriers light. So information barriers is a product that Microsoft has. It's very, very, very restrictive. If you say that these two organizations can't talk, they can't talk, period. You can't send an email, you can't share a file, there's no one-offs, right? And so they are working on a tool called Information Barriers 2. I've heard from Microsoft and people at Microsoft that it's not being proactively worked on the way other products are, and there's so much challenge. So this is what I'm calling IP Lite, and it actually solves the main problem of information barriers by being able to put up ethical walls in between who can collaborate, who can't. It also is a rich set of monitoring features to see who's oversharing, who's who is sharing anyone links, how that's working, what's overshared in general. So then an admin can come in and say, oh, this doesn't look good. This is being shared all the time. Maybe they should actually have a site where they collaborate together, or maybe they shouldn't have been doing that at all. So you can see all of those. You can see inactive site life cycles and life cycle management of your whole content life cycle. You can see data access governance, which is basically the reports I was talking about before. And there's great, more granular conditional access that you get right out of the box on Purview, where you can set location and device type and combination with other fields, and ultimately drive those conditional access policies further.
I'm on the oversharing. Is this actually working? It's out, it works. I could go run
this. This is the easiest thing that every organization should be. And I'm seeing so much.
But it's not vaporware. It's like, it's there, it's working.
It's there. Yeah.
Yep. It looks like I'm just looking at the monthly cost, $3.60 a month. That's just for the admins that need to manage, right?
Yes. It's for the people that are going to need access to the information and the reports. And it also, technically, the licensing is, if you are part of those security groups that I mentioned for the dynamic group, you would need a license for it to work. It probably would work technically by just turning it on and setting it up. But it would be technically a license violation of Microsoft, because if they're being controlled by restricted access policy, they would need a license.
But for beta testing, to go turn it on in a client's environment.
They have a free trial right now that you can turn on right away. So these are all the items I just kind of went through, but they're adding more. So they're adding content event insights, which is going to give you a lot of notifications about those events, and can actually send out information to your company, like the banners we used to all build in our intranets that would say, there's this ransomware attack, or something's happening in the office, don't go. You'll be able to push things like that. There's going to be AI insights that uses generative AI to go over all set reports and actually give you recommendations on what to do instead of you having to dig through the reports and try to figure it out. There's going to be everyone except external users reports that are coming. This is more actions around that, where you can mark sites, set restriction policies. If there is oversharing, and it could be like someone shared something in HR to everyone in the company, you would have a rule that says, hey, lock this down right now. Don't let anyone else in. It would be pretty cool. You can set up different access to different SharePoint apps. You could say, only people in this security group can have access to the app. Even though they could technically add it, they're still not going to be able to get to it. And then there's going to be a governance assessment, which is going to give you your baseline, kind of probably what you would want before you even had this stuff. It's going to show you, hey, am I actually wide open? And there's a good chance you are. And most of your clients are, and they're just not aware of it yet.
And that's TBD, it's not in preview.
It's not in preview yet, but it's coming very soon. So with that, I'll just kind of show it real quick, or at least some of it.
Can I just double check my understanding what you were just talking about?
Yeah, please.
That's SharePoint capabilities. That's not Purview capabilities.
Correct. It's SharePoint Advanced Management. And
Got
it's
it.
basically what it's doing is taking the goodies from Purview and building upon them. And making it more centric to SharePoint. And there's a lot of work normal, like if you're doing a security project, when you start looking around DLP and sensitivity policies and all this stuff, that's a big project. That's a lot, could be a multi-year project. Whereas this is just putting up ethical walls based on, groups and whatever you want to build, and you can do it in seconds.
This should just be part of Purview, because they already have information areas there. They have everything else. It's
That's
really.
what I was thinking.
It is what it is, but.
You would think, I don't,
Silly.
I don't disagree, but this is the way the product was laid out, and I get it that you want to give certain, you might not have the Purview license, right? But you're going to get these Purview features that's going to help your SharePoint environment. So that's really the thought.
Well, even if you have the Purview, Purview can only do so much on the Content Explorer. This is going to give you a different insight of what's going on than what Purview is going to do. At least from what I've read.
Yeah.
It's a different view on the sprawl, the exposure that it's because it's still
I
within
get
the
what you're saying,
environment.
but if you look at what they've done for other
There's-
products, right? Like Intune, for example, and others, when they turn on the features, they just turn more blades on or whatever inside of the other product. They should just do the same thing in Purview, where it's basic, it's this, and then you buy more and you expose more.
They're targeting to they're targeting to the SharePoint side of the house, not necessarily the security side. They don't correlate them for some reason, even though SharePoint's where everything lives.
Right. Yeah.
But they talk about it, they market it different on the Purview side than they do from the SharePoint admin side.
I totally agree with that. And you might want your SharePoint admin have some access to some of these features and be able to figure out which retention policies you want to have to your site and so on. And the only way they can do it right now is getting access to Purview, right? And being able to do that. And you may not want that. And so this puts the power of what you need to be a SharePoint admin back in the admin's hands, but only insofar as it impacts you.
It's unfortunate that some of these features aren't just upgraded
I know.
base SharePoint features. I get the AI analysis, those things you should pay an extra license for, but just having clean ways to manage permissions seems like that should actually be part of the base product.
And I heard with user voice and people starting to say those things out loud when this starts catching fire. I hope that would change. There should be certain things that are just new baseline.
Scaled some of
Yeah, it's been part of the natural progression of the product has, it's been pretty stale otherwise. for
Correct.
a decade plus. Yeah.
But either way, I mean, at $3.60, if you have to license 4 admins in an organization, who cares? If that's really truly all you have to do.
No, like I said, all of the people in your dynamic groups that are getting restricted, they would need a license.
Yeah.
Yes. But basically what this gave me is I have now restricted. Go ahead.
I'm so sorry. I just wanted to say it's cool. I don't mean to derail us. It is really interesting.
Thank you. Yeah, no, you're good. So basically it gives you this restricted site access area inside of your SharePoint admin sites. I can come here, I can add a security group, I can restrict access to the site. I can add as many security groups as I want and so on. This one is obviously not the best one I could have picked. I need to All right, so I guess somebody took this off, but basically we just have to change this to allow access restriction. This was configured. I don't know why it's not now. And then you can restrict sites and you can add up to, I believe, 10 different security groups to this. So if it was like a cross-functional site, you could also add, accounting and HR together in a site, and it would only allow those two security groups. Or if you had cross-functional security groups already created in your organization, it could just use the one and be all set, right? So gives you that flexibility for sure. And like, I can show you this. So if I come to this site right now, I don't have it. Well, that wasn't a good example either.
If you go and add a security group to one of these, right, and you say this is the only one I want on this, will it then remove permissions that were previous shares? It'll lock it out.
It will basically the users that if they existed, they'll still stay on the site, but when they click it, they're going to
They can't. They have
error that
access.
says an organizational policy has been set and you do not have access to this site.
It's just overriding all the previous permissions. It's not wiping anything out.
Correct.
But it's overriding them.
It's making sure that you have secure walls, making sure that
So if you turn,
have.
so you can turn off the restriction later and then everyone has access to that.
Correct. That's.
I should fix it, share.
Well, it does in this way. It allows your users, and owners to be able to own permissions, share out with whoever they want, but the organization is able finally to be able to say, nope, only these groups or these people, so it allows,
Override.
it is.
No, with the
They're not fixing
override,
the
though,
problem.
but the override, like, so let's say, Kevin changes the permissions and he thinks he shared it with somebody in HR, and you have the override, does it still look to him like he did it, or is it overridden?
It would allow him to do it, but it wouldn't, that person would not.
Oh
have
my
access.
God.
It's just a hidden deny.
Yeah, that's like, gaslight people.
But there's an organizational policy. That's why, the reason why that is needed. I'm in a couple of private equity firms right now. And they have different funds that they are not allowed to share information between two different funds and like, how do you work with that? But they should still be able to email people.
What level, what role has rights to do this?
You'd have to have a SharePoint Advanced Management license to get in, and then there's a SharePoint Advanced Management role.
Okay.
And so
But you don't need GA or anything like
you don't need,
that. GA.
No.
Perfect.
And no GA automatically has permissions to do this. They would have to give themselves that role.
yes.
Okay.
And so you can set those, and basically right whenever you click on the site, it would bomb out and say, I didn't add myself in, I guess. Thought I did, but
The screen just looks different because it's policy.
right. At the end of the day, you set these groups and that would block it. The same applies with OneDrive. So in this case, this private equity firm, they have a lot of sharing between funds because they have not locked down their SharePoint sites or their users for being able to share. They're almost at the point where it's like no OneDrive for anyone, right? Because you could share confidential information that we're not allowed to have. So they had a tool called Do Control. It would allow you to send a file. I could share it with anyone across the wall. And then 10 minutes later, a job would run and revoke that access. It's like, so you have the access for 10 minutes to the file. Like, what? That's not very secure, right? And that's definitely a reactive client.
It's not gonna suffice the SCCA either.
Right, exactly.
So,
So this helps them.
one of the features that you showed in the big ticket list was around being able to block downloads for OneDrive and SharePoint. Can I do the block downloads for a particular site?
I'll show you.
It's almost like information protection at a higher level.
That's what it really, I mean, that's really what it is. It's more advanced. permissioning and access management that you've ever had in the SharePoint tool set.
And for those who aren't, I'm just thinking smaller scale clients who aren't ready for a full data governance purview implementation, you could throw this on as a good solution to start with.
Yeah, stuff.
If you like,
Yeah.
So you just, it's a.
Oh, yeah,
PowerShell
you have to
command.
run power.
Okay. You do have to, there are certain things in here, that will require you to get your hands dirty and run PowerShell.
Okay.
The only way you have access that can handle it is if you have the premium.
Okay, but I can do that on a per
You can
site.
do it on a per site level, you can do it, and you can set all kinds of different.
So to that point, right, because one of the big things is like, well, I can't do it in SharePoint, so I'll just download it into my OneDrive, then I can do it in OneDrive and still sync to the cloud.
Yeah, you can also exclude it where like your owners could still download, but your users, end users, or members can't. So it's very customizable to figure out what you need to do.
So then the very next question would be is, how do I audit what like if I have 10,000 SharePoint sites, how do I audit which one of those sites allows and doesn't allow downloads?
You write a PowerShell command, if you get all the sites and put it in an array.
Sounds like a product.
It is product. It
You
should
know,
be.
I'm saying you could create a product around all those shortcomings.
Right. Exactly. So
The
that,
public SharePoint reporting.
Call it ShareMate.
there you go.
that's the SharePoint advanced.
Yes.
Yeah.
For $5.
Ah.
So there's things like cycles, where you can actually
You're right.
create rules that show inactive sites, and you can look across different teams and different groups. And you can create your own policies to figure out what the sites are, and archive them, or back them up, or do whatever you need
Or
to
whack
do.
them.
And SharePoint Advanced Management it just rolled out backup and archive. And then now it's GA. And so,
Yeah, I saw that.
yeah, that's pretty awesome. And you're gonna be able to back your stuff up right inside of SharePoint. You'll be able to get right to the item really quick, restore things. And so when you write natively, the archive feature is going to move the content to cold storage instead of your SharePoint storage, which is a lot more expensive. And it's still going to be accessible in the archive, and search could still look it over there if they need to. But it would live there and be cheaper and not affect your SharePoint quota. So just pretty.
Index.
Yeah. And you can build all that stuff out here.
And it will keep all the permissions.
That's really powerful, that the search will still work in this cold storage.
Yeah, that's the only.
So we have so many clients who just like, they won't go put it in cold storage because they might need that one invoice from, 1997. And they won't do it.
Access and version of this.
Yeah, you got egress.
But it's really reasonably priced, so.
Huh.
You have anything to show on that?
On
On the backup?
But that will be on one of the next
Okay.
sessions.
That would be part 3. He's slipping the content.
Yeah, so many things that's coming to this.
For the MLS.
And.
No, so it's like, this is MLM.
Yeah.
Look at us in, reel us every week, come back.
Exactly. I mean, there's just so much. And they're gonna be coming out with dropping new Henson products here in the next, during conference season. So they're gonna be presenting a bunch of this stuff that at N365 conference, they're going to be presenting this. We're working on getting a booth for both of those, the book, sign behind us and everything. So Microsoft's making a big push around SharePoint Premium here at that time. So it should be pretty cool. You guys will learn more about it just through normal channels, but I'll be here to keep showing you guys.
So just out of curiosity and looking at time, would it actually make sense if you're up for it to have you continue this like for next month? And because that also, based on what you also said, is that next week you're actually meeting around this, so you might have some additional news.
I want it to be, but I believe this is gonna be like April 6th or 7th.
Yes.
And I will be at AIM during that time.
Okay.
So, and then at the end of April, I'm at N365 at the beginning. So I don't know if we want to shift the dates a little bit. I know we never like doing that,
Yeah.
but if we shift the date 1 week, down on both of those, that'd be fine. And I would love to do that.
But the Wi-Fi just got adjusted to only work on.
Yeah, oh, yeah, that's great.
Well, but next month was gonna be to manage this.
Oh, then we don't have, want to do it.
So again, I will share this every time because I feel like I should. This is the book. It's available everywhere. It's Target, Walmart, and Amazon, obviously.
Is it on Audible?
It's going to be. They're working on that, but they haven't built that yet.
'Cause I like listening.
You haven't found the right voice for it yet?
Oh, you said Audible. I'm sorry. I thought you were saying like an ebook. Yes, it will come out that. They're not, I don't think they'll make this. Yeah, you could technically. The reason why is like, who wants to read or listen to a technical book? Like, this is the power diagram.
The diagram.
This root path and, see, pull and that.
All right, I'll buy the actual book. I don't buy books anymore. I listen to books.
I do too, but not technical books. This will be hopefully more of a desk guide where people will be able to say, hey, I want to go build a model today. How am I going to do that? And I can go research and do it. I want to apply signatures. I want to set up a Power Automate that would automate the whole business process. Basically, that's what this book is aimed to do. SharePoint or the product team is pumping out features faster than we can keep up with. So we expect this to be an evolving book too. We're still figuring out how that will go, but
How long did it take you to write?
took about a full year for 4 of us to write it. And it's 432 pages. It's a very big book. And
Congrats.
Jan, go put it in Amazon.
it was,
I'm gonna say.
I had a love-hate relationship with writing, I'll put it that way. There's so much, and it was funny, right when we were going to release the book, it was called SharePoint Syntex. Right whenever, like, we were turning everything in, and it was final deadlines, and one of the product owners was like, I can't let you do this. I have to tell you, the name's gonna change. You have to change all the name of your book and all the references and every chapter. He was like, I would hate for you to go publish this book and then tomorrow it's changed. I can't do that to you. It's like, I thought we were done and I'm back to it. So it's been fun in the journey. Yeah, definitely check it out. We'd love all of you guys to read it and get,
So they changed it to Copilot for sure.
well, they're closely, and we'll get there more throughout the course of these. That it really is. SharePoint Premium is going to enable Copilot to give your users a lot more rich experience because it's putting the guardrails up that really every organization needs before they just turn on generative AI across the organization. But it didn't all exist whenever they first did it, and everyone wants this new shiny thing called Copilot. And I guarantee there'll be issues in organizations because they just turned it on willy-nilly and haven't thought it through. So
Yes.
that means more work for consultants, our team to resolve the issues. So. But that
Are these features available in GCC High?
so most of them are.
Right. I was gonna say, all the AI and stuff.
Yeah. Most of it is not. There is, I can't remember the two that are, but I will take that as an action item to get back to whenever we meet next time or I'll. Yeah, that's a good question though. But yeah, most of them are not. It usually takes a few years for anything to get there. So,
Gotta wait for the Chinese to put their codes in it.
yeah, right.
Well, they just had that bug. That was like, there was a bug a week ago. And then it made it to GCC High the following week.
Oh,
So we know there's at least
some,
some
Yeah.
correlation there. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it could be.
The app is not as tight as it used to be.
Maybe.
I mean, because they are totally separate, like server rooms and networks and everything. So that's weird. Maybe it was a spy. What other questions you guys have? Anybody?
I could ask you questions all day about that.
Yeah, I love the questions. So I want to see people get excited about this technology and really start evangelizing it because it is what we all wanted in SharePoint if you're a SharePoint admin or a SharePoint person, what we've always wanted and what we thought we were gonna get. And thought it was gonna come way sooner than it did, but this is like very awesome time to be in content management. You're gonna be able to change the whole way your businesses and clients work if you master this stuff. So thank you guys for coming. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So just to close out really quick, we are looking to get a nice queue of speakers kind of lined up to be able to talk. And I'm just gonna say every single person in this room probably has something that they can talk about. And so you don't have to write a book to be able to come up and talk. So I would challenge everybody to try to come up with a topic that they're passionate about. And that they could potentially present, because we'd love to hear from people in the group. It's a safe space, so no judgment. But yeah, but we really do need speakers. We've been reaching out to people, and we have a couple things, but we really would like a nice queue of people to be able to speak. And what better than the people that are already showing up? So. You can present.
She likes to do Viva.
You want to learn about Viva?
Sure.
I love Viva. I love Viva also.
Definitely just reach out to actually either Dustin, Dan, myself, Jim, or Dan, either Dan.
All day.
If you're interested at all, either through the meetup group, you can message us, or if you are part of the Teams group, you can message us there. If you're not part of the Teams group, just message me on Meetup, and I will get you on the Teams group. All I would need is just what email address you want added to the team. All right. So, but with that, hope everyone enjoyed. Thank you, Skyterra, for hosting again, and for the pizza. Really appreciate it. And anything else anyone wants to add before we depart?
One thing that we used to do that I don't know that we're in the habit of doing now, but just talking about if anybody has any jobs they're trying to fill or positions they're trying to look for, to bring that up as a group. So anybody is looking for work or has work and would like to bring it up to the group, we can go ahead and do that. So Skyterra has a few open positions, specifically they're in our managed services realm, but we're always looking for good talented folks. And of course, you're welcome to use us if you are looking for positions to help you out with either networks that we have or things like that. So we'll try to add that to the agenda and bring that up on our monthly calls as well.
You know anybody who likes the city of Gloucester? We're always looking for positions in Gloucester.
An in-person position?
Yes, hybrid. I would do
Say a couple
hybrid.
days. Yes, Gloucester.
Yeah,
It is
Gloucester. That's what I was gonna say.
And it's the island of Gloucester, because no one can apparently get there in under an hour and a half, like is what I.
Well, there's only like one way, yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
Let's go by water.
And we have this organization does have dock slips, so if that's your preferred method of transportation.
I was gonna say.
Yes,
I
we
would
do
think-
dock slip access. Mm.
All right, send me.
Actually, we do, isn't it fun?
Yeah,
I didn't think of that.
Jason has a slip.
Why did father drive the boat?
Yes, we don't want to let his father down.
That would be a hell of a thing.
I know my company's always looking for basically like data architects, data engineers. And I'll even throw out that if you bring me somebody who gets hired, I'll even like put the referral bonus. So right now I think it's like $1,000 or $3,000.
Wow.
So
bonus.
Same thing with Slalom also. If you guys see anything and want to see a job that makes sense, feel free to reach out. And I can't get the referral bonus, but I'll give it to somebody on my team.
Yeah.
It will help make sure that you get taken care of. So.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for coming out tonight. Appreciate it. See you next for part 2.
Oh, I was just gonna say,
Yep.
couple of quick things about other stuff going on in community. We've got Boston Code Camp coming up on March 23rd. We've got the New Hampshire Cybersecurity Symposium, which the call for speakers is still open, happening at Manchester Community College. The Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday immediately after Boston Code Camp. Then we've got New England Give Camp that's actually moving up to Manchester, New Hampshire this year. So stay tuned for information about that. That's going to be in May. And what else? Any other events? Yeah.
What is Give Camp?
Give Camp is sort of a hackathon style 48-hour weekend event. Starts on a Friday night and ends on Sunday evening, where we get a bunch of nonprofit organizations together who have some form of technical debt that needs to be addressed. And we get a bunch of technical people to address it and see what we can knock out. And it's a lot of fun. I've done it a bunch of years myself, and looking forward to it this coming year. It's going to be at for the first time in at Southern New Hampshire University in Hooksett. So looking forward to that. Reach out to me if you want to be a part of that in any way. We're actually looking for people to help organize as well as participate in that. So
When is the cybersecurity symposium? We did that last year as well. Yeah.
Cybersecurity Symposium is a 3-day event that happens starting Tuesday, the 26th, runs through the 28th. It's at Manchester Community College, and it's basically a running stream of content that people volunteer to present to the students and community up there at the community college.
I don't think you said the month.
I'm sorry?
It's fun.
Is it this month? It is this month.
It is this month.
It's actually
Yes.
closing tomorrow. If something you're interested in, Dan and Darren, I sent you both an email on it today. If we want to attend or.
I'll check my deleted items.
Yep. I must have missed that.
All right, thank you.
And of course, we do have the New Hampshire.NET developers group that happens the third Thursday of the month every month. Looking for speakers for that as well if you happen to be interested. So
All right.
that's it for what I got.
Awesome. Thank you, Jim.
All right, thank you all.
Good night. Thank you, everybody.
Take care. Good
Bye.
night.
Some cookies out there too, if people want to grab.